Welcome to Lit Vibes Only, where we lit the shit out of books we love and hate. I'm Amanda, the insightful thrill seeker and historical fiction nerd.
And I'm Kelsey, the unhinged, diehard romantic and fantasy reader. Welcome to our Lit Rex episode.
Woo-hoo.
We want to direct you to our socials first, of course. Please find us on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast. And if Instagram is not your thing, we're over on TikTok and YouTube as well at litvibesonly podcast without the underscore. And of course, the only way that our podcast gets moving and gets traction,
gets visibility,
is rating and reviewing our podcast. So it takes 2 to 5 seconds on your part to do a rating, and then maybe 30 seconds more to write something nice. And we greatly appreciate it every time someone goes and takes the time to do so. Please don't forget to do that. We thank you in advance.
Yes, thank you so much. It's a little thing, but it goes a real long way.
Thing, yep.
Yeah. And I think because it's a little thing, people just tend to be like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not gonna, why am I gonna take that time? I promise you, it has such a huge impact. And the more reviews we have, the more ratings we have, it really just bumps us right up that list. Because let me tell you, there are a lot of book podcasts out there, and
there are.
We are fighting for our lives.
Very few with our subject material.
Yeah, with our setup, I would say, where we're have these battling
debates.
Yeah,
that we just recorded.
Taste in books. So yes, if you tuned in last week, got a little feisty, and we had a great time. We did.
I did.
So actually, no, I think we're doing these out of order because this is going to be.
This is gonna be
because we messed up our recording order.
Yeah.
And so actually get excited for next week.
Next week is interesting.
It is a battle of the books. We had quite a brawl, and it was hilarious, and I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to spoil it. But for sure, make sure you're following this podcast. You've hit that little follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you get those notifications and can be the first to check it out.
Heck yeah.
And enjoy. But yes, we've got our Lit Rex episode, second Monday of January. We are excited to be here, but we're going to talk about our current reads first.
Yeah.
I'm happy to start.
Go for it.
I'm about to start. It's actually quite a short book. It's here for those of you watching on YouTube. It's Audition by Katie Kitamura. I think that's how you say her name. We're reading it for book club this month. You can see it's a tiny little kind of pamphlet of a book. I think it's less than 200 pages. So we'll probably breeze right through it, but it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 2025. So last year. And from what I can tell, it's about this older actress who has this encounter with this kind of troubled young man who could be her son. And there's these two narratives that are happening, but I think it shifts around in time. I think as well. So there's a lot happening in this less than 200 page book. I'm very intrigued and it should make for a good book club discussion this month. So looking forward to it.
We'll have fun with that one. I really appreciate when book club books are short.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's just one of those added
reads.
Yes.
On top of everything else. Yeah,
exactly. With the podcast, we have at least one that we're having to read, and then a book club book. I want to start book club. I think that would gain us some traction, but it'd be a lot.
It's a big lift. It's a big lift.
So
maybe down the road we shall see. Especially if we can get some part-time help, that would be great with this podcast.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So the thing that I am reading, or I started recently, is Immortal Dark. I'm actually curious if you will like this one, Amanda. It's by Tigest Irma. And it's about vampires.
Oh God. All right. I'm already just
it is an author of color. And so I'm I of course want to give it a chance. And I've heard really great things about it.
Okay.
To get into it.
I'm intrigued. I did read Octavia Butler's vampire book and did not like it.
And
God, why am I blanking on it?
It was a weird one, right?
It was really weird.
It was weird.
And wait, do you know the name
starts
of
with
it?
an F?
Does it? I literally feel like I wiped it from my memory because
it's not that.
There's a weird age gap in it, a weird age gap relationship that made me feel very fledgling. That's what it is. And yeah, and I'm an Octavia Butler fan. We've covered her on the podcast, but it was weird. I don't know.
I might really like it.
I honestly don't think you would, but I would be curious for you to read it and we could chat about it. But
I think I have it. No, I have 2 of her books.
You probably have Parable of the Sower and Kindred.
Yes. No, I don't have Kindred.
Oh.
Parable of the Sower and the second one after Parable of the Sower.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those are the 2 books that I have.
Okay. But yeah, anyhow, I don't tend to like vampire books. I'm not against them, but not my preferred subject.
The other thing that I will say though is a great update is my husband started reading Firekeeper's Daughter a while ago.
Yes.
Finally finished it
and
last night. Loved it. And he immediately picked up the 3rd book in that series and he starts reading it. He's like, this is in the same universe. I was like, yeah, that's her 3rd book in the universe.
That's how that works.
And when we saw Angeline Boulley in Vancouver, she told us that it doesn't matter which book you start with.
Sure.
And so he's going to the
because they're not like chronological. It's just that they're happening in the same universe. So
or
you could
linear.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. Cool. I'm glad to hear there's yet another Firekeeper's Daughter fan out there. And if you're listening and haven't checked it out, you should. It's such a good read. And we've chatted about it a lot on this podcast, especially Kelsey. It has come up in so many episodes.
It's a good book.
It's a good book. So do yourself a favor. It was actually one of my Christmas presents last year, not 2025, the year before, because it's currently still December 21st. But
could be getting Christmas presents.
That's true. That is true. But yeah, so we're going to do our January Litrex episode. And as we've mentioned already multiple times, we are trying to switch things up now that we're in our 2nd year. So we're not doing the same group of people, the same identity every month that we did the prior year. And so this year for January, we're going to be focusing on poverty awareness. Poverty Awareness Month is observed every January in the United States, and it's meant to highlight the realities of poverty, its complex causes, and its impacts such as hunger, lack of healthcare, exclusion, both on individuals and on communities. The official U.S. poverty rate for 2024 was 10.6%. So that's about 35.9 million people who are currently living below the poverty line. So this month really encourages education, support for anti-poverty organizations, and advocacy for systemic solutions like better access to resources, education, fair wages. It's also a call to action for solidarity with the poor and for building more equitable communities. And many nonprofits and religious groups during this month and throughout the year, honestly, participate through volunteering, donations, and awareness campaigns. And obviously, today on the podcast, as always, Kelsey and I have chosen 2 books that kind of highlight life and lived experiences of people who are experiencing poverty. So both of mine actually are autobiographies. Ooh. And it looks like we have Kelsey. No, one for sure is fiction. And then I think one's an autobiography as well. Is that right?
I think it's a biography. What's the
biography? Difference? Autobiographies that they wrote it themselves. A biography, someone wrote it about them. So it looks like she wrote her book. So it's an autobiography. But did you want to start or would you like me to?
I can start us.
Okay.
This is actually funny because I just received this book for what we do at my school is like Secret Snowflake because we're in public school and we can't refer to Santa.
Wild.
But and just that everybody celebrates different things.
Sure.
But my Secret Snowflake gave me this book, which I was so excited about. It was one of our English teachers too. So
perfect.
Good taste. And so I can't wait to get into it in January. I'm going to leave it for January, I think.
Okay.
But this is Heir by Sabaa Tahir, which we have highlighted on the podcast fairly recently.
Yes.
And about over a year ago as well. And I just loved her writing in All My Rage. And I keep like telling everybody about it. I remember my friend who lives across the country. I was doing Christmas cards. What's your address? What you doing? And one of the things we always talk about are books. And he's like, what good books do you have lately? And I was like, this one you have to listen to.
Excellent.
Because everybody needs to listen to it.
Yeah.
and read it. Anyway, so diving into Sabaa Tahir, she was born in Great Britain and raised in California's Mojave Desert. And she grew up in her family's 18-room motel, which inspired some of the themes and settings in her writing, which we see in All My Rage. She comes from a Pakistani immigrant family and ended up attending the University of California, UCLA in Los Angeles, and studied journalism and interned at the Washington Post.
Cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. And she worked as an editor on the foreign desk at the Washington Post for nearly 5 years and began writing her debut novel at 27. She says during night shifts at the newspaper. So I'm sure like those, I don't know much about like journalism and the job, but I know that it is long hours and grueling work, especially if you're like a reporter as well. You're getting into the communities and like trying to develop and gain access to those stories. So I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 2015, this was an Ember in the Ashes, and it actually became a New York Times bestseller, which is I think another series, not Heir, but it's her first series. And then she wrote All My Rage. And then this is her latest, Heir. And then she published the contemporary YA novel that I continue to rave about, All My Rage, in 2022. And All My Rage won a National Book Award for Young People's Literature. And also won Boston Globe Horn Book Award for fiction and poetry. And what is this one?
The Prince Award.
Prince Award. I wish there was just like a set of awards we knew about, but there's
so many.
A
wide array.
And that was in 2023 where she won that award. And it says it's like one of the highest honors in YA literature, which All My Rage deserves.
Yep.
And then she was on New York Times bestseller like multiple times for the Ember series, her first series. And then was listed in Time magazine as one of the 100 best YA books of all time. It doesn't say what year that was, but yeah, that's really
pretty
fantastic.
spectacular. Yeah, it's a big honor.
And All My Rage received like 6-starred reviews and multiple best of the year recognitions from like major review outlets. And she often is drawing on her inspiration of her Pakistani heritage and packages it with real world like history, because besides All My Rage, which is a contemporary novel, Ember and Ashes and Heir are both fantasy novels. And so what I really love about fantasy novels is that they can do that work at the same time as bringing this like fictional characters and world together to represent like the like various themes that you're trying to like portray. And she explores like themes of oppression, trauma, friendships, moral complexity throughout a lot of her work. And she now lives in San Francisco, the Bay Area, with her family. And loves music, often creates, this was interesting. And I'm noticing like a lot of authors do this, but they like create playlists for their books, which she also does. And it says she enjoys rock collecting and sci-fi, fantasy media, and all things Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is all about Sabaa Tahir.
It's so funny because as you were going through this, because I featured her last year.
Oh my gosh.
And Little Rex, I'm like, I remember reading some of these same. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember she wrote her book after work hours. And so, yeah, that's great. But you included some things that I didn't. So that's great.
So fun. So Heir itself, it is 484 pages, has a Goodreads rating of 4.22.
Wow.
And was published in October 2024. So it's like a little over a year old.
Yeah.
And I believe the second one has come out. So I'll have to continue reading after that. And I was looking at the 1-star reviews, and there's only 145 1-star reviews out of like 16,000. So it's a very, very
Whoa,
small.
that's a minuscule amount.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Way to go, Sabaa.
So I just cannot wait to get into this. But basically, the novel follows like 3 young people with very different backgrounds. And A's, which I don't exactly know how to pronounce all of their names yet, but we'll get to that, grew up in the Kagari slums and has seen her share like of suffering. And you can imagine that it's relating to the poverty, you know, that she saw growing up. Sabaa, Tahir. And then Saoirse has been banished from her people for an unforgivable crime. She's a tracker who uses her magic to track her targets, but she finds herself attracted to her recent target.
Oh.
And then finally, Quill is the crown prince of the empire and will take the throne once his aunt steps down. And so you follow these characters, and of course, their stories intertwine along the way. And I'm so curious to see how she incorporates the various themes that she normally incorporates in her writing.
Yeah.
And to, what do I want to say, compare that to the issues that she's trying to touch upon. So I'm excited for that one. I had to include a fantasy book.
But of course,
read.
stay on brand for Kelsey.
Yes.
Also, I mean, when you have a character who's literally a royal and then you have someone from the slums, obviously the issue of class is going to come up in like socioeconomic status. So that's such a great pick. And yeah, fantasy authors have such a cool tool to use their genre to comment on real world issues and draw our attention to them in a way that might, I don't know, make them more tangible for us or more stark for us so we can wrap our heads around them or address them like we saw with Blood Over Brighthaven for sure.
Exactly.
So that's a great choice. Thank you. So my first book is Finding Me by Viola Davis. And this is one book that I listened to last year, 2025, on audiobook. And generally, if I'm going to read an autobiography, I try to listen to it, especially if the person themselves is reading it. And we know that Viola Davis is an incredibly talented actress. So I knew that she would do an amazing job reading this book. So a little bit about Viola. There's so much I could say about her, and I tried my best to condense it. But she has just had such an incredible life. So she was born in the 60s in South Carolina, but grew up almost entirely in Rhode Island, which, there's not a huge African-American population in Rhode Island, so I can't even begin to imagine what that must have been like. After she graduated from high school, she, like me, majored in theater at Rhode Island College, and then
so many authors that we choose have done that. It's so interesting.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. Theater is all about storytelling, right? It's just a different form of it. And then very impressive, she went on to attend Juilliard for 4 years. Wow. And since then, has performed in just an insane array of stage plays, TV shows, films, just like all the forms, right? And I think most people know her from playing Annalise Keating in How to Get Away with Murder, which is a TV show. Hopefully you've heard of it. It's pretty well known. I have watched every single season and loved it. Highly recommend if you haven't checked it out. But that's really kind of, I think, catapulted her more squarely into the public eye. She'd already done some great stuff before that, but I think that kind of cemented her place. In 2012, Time Magazine listed her as one of the most influential people in the world, which is like a huge honor. And then also that same year, Glamour named her Film Actress of the Year. And then later in 2015, she became the first African-American to win the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series for How to Get Away with Murder, and has also won 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards for Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Drama Series. She's received 3 Academy Award nominations, making her the first Black actress ever in history to achieve this feat.
Oh, wow.
She's also won an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, Screen Actors Guild Award, BAFTA Award. I mean, just so many awards.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even include the awards that she's won for her stage work. So just really such an incredibly accomplished woman. And since 2014, and this very much ties into our theme for today, Davis has collaborated with the Hunger Is campaign to help eradicate childhood hunger across America. And she herself specifically said, quote, 17 million kids in this country. So 1 in 5 kids in this country go to bed hungry. I was one of those kids because I grew up in abject poverty. I did everything that you could possibly imagine to get food. I rummaged in the garbage cans. I stole from the local store constantly, unquote. And we'll get to this in a moment when we get to her book. So we'll talk more about that. But currently she's married to a fellow actor, Julius Tennant, and they welcomed their adopted daughter, Genesis, into their family in 2011. So that's just a little background on her. Her book, Finding Me, was published fairly recently in April of 2022. It's 304 pages and has a 4.53 Goodreads rating, which is just like insane. Like, that's quite close to 5. We're going to round up. It was nominated for the Reader's Favorite Memoir and Autobiography Award on Goodreads in 2022, and also won the Audie Award for Audiobook of the Year and for narration by the author. Grammy Award, which I didn't even know they gave out Grammy Awards for Best Audiobook, but apparently they do. So she won the Grammy for that. And the NAACP Image Award for Nonfiction, the She Reads Best of Award for Memoir, and was nominated for Book of the Year and Audiobook. So just again, she's accomplished her autobiography has done really well. And in a nutshell, the book tells the story of her upbringing. It was full of poverty, abuse, just so many hardships. As I was listening to this book, I was like, nothing else could possibly go wrong. This could not get any worse. And it inevitably does, which reminds me or makes me think of the book we'll be talking about next week, Demon Copperhead, which is just like this series of unfortunate events, really. And so it also tells this remarkable journey that she then embarked upon to, in spite of her upbringing, attain her dream of becoming an accomplished actress, which in general is an incredibly difficult feat, even if you're coming from a more stable background. So for her to have started where she did and end up where she is just truly phenomenal. Viola herself has described herself, as having, quote, lived in abject poverty and dysfunction, unquote, during her childhood, recalling living in rat-infested and condemned apartments. And the book is just chock full of just really gritty and unflinching honesty about the realities of poverty, abuse, racism, kind of the cycle of generational trauma and how that contributes to all of this. And I know I keep saying this, but I obviously only know quote unquote Viola Davis from who she is now and everything that she's accomplished. And you would never know looking at her and see the way that she conducts herself and the success she's achieved, just how dire her upbringing was. And so it truly is a story of hope and inspiration, but does very much shine a light on the poverty that many people, millions, literally, as we stated in the beginning, experience. So I really appreciate it for opening my eyes to that. I think oftentimes too, as Americans, we can be like, this is America. Like everyone has food on the table and a roof over their, like, and I think that that's kind of what we tell ourselves. In reality, there are literally millions of people who are struggling to make ends meet, who are skipping meals, who don't have house security, job security, food security. So it's a great book. She does an insanely good job of narrating it. And I think it is a good eye opener and a way to raise awareness about poverty in the United States. 10 out of 10, highly recommend.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's intriguing. I don't know if I can handle.
I don't think maybe you're not right now, but especially after I made you read Demon Copperhead, but I do
maybe
think at some
sometime
point,
soon.
Yeah. Give yourself a break.
My next novel, and I think it's a memoir, and now I'm like so confused about autobiography, biography, and memoir because it's called a memoir.
Autobiographies and memoirs are synonymous because they both are written by the person who experienced it.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm highlighting Making a Difference, My Fight for Native Rights by Ada Deer. And I'm so glad I came across this book. I have yet to read it, but I can't imagine it being a flop. So let's get into it. Ada Deer, she's actually deceased. She died in 2023 because she was born in 1935.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Been around for a while.
And I listened to this. Give me a second.
Okay.
Menominee.
Menominee?
Menominee. I listened to, I swear.
I believe you.
Menominee. Nation leader, activist, scholar, and public servant. She was born and raised on the Menominee Reservation in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And as a child, she experienced the effects of the U.S. federal policies aimed at terminating tribal sovereignty. Mm. And her community was really tight knit and family centered, had strong like cultural values around responsibility, respect, and like collective care. Mm. And at the time when she was younger, the nation managed its own like sustainable logging industry, which had provided jobs and like a sense of pride and self-sufficiency. Despite this, poverty and underfunded services were very common due to federal neglect and restrictions placed on tribal governance. Thinking about the 40s and 50s, like, I do highlight that later, but this is just one nation's experience, but this was very much across the entire United States, happening to a lot of tribes. And also thinking about like their education opportunities on the reservation were very limited. Thinking about the 40s and 50s, boarding schools were in high
full swing.
Yes. I was like, what are the words I'm thinking? Yeah, exactly. We're in full swing at this time. And if you didn't go, there weren't very many opportunities on the reservation. And if they went off the reservation, they often faced like discrimination. Ada became interested in politics around sovereignty. And in 1961, the US government terminated the tribe and it stripped it of its federal recognition, land protections, and services. And so Ada became a leading voice in the I'm going to say this correctly. Menominee restoration movement, organizing nationally to reverse like termination. And she does successfully, her and her people successfully restore their sovereignty. And that was in 1973. And then she becomes like the first woman elected chair of the tribe. And then she goes on to earn like her PhD in social work and serves as a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And in 1993, she was appointed Assistant Secretary of the Interior for Indian Affairs. And at the time was the highest federal position overseeing Native affairs. Yeah. And she was the first Native Indigenous woman to hold that role.
Wow, way to go. That's amazing.
Yeah. So really interesting life. And I can't wait to read this. I also wanted to note too that Theda Purdue supported the autobiography of Ada, not as a co-author, but as a historian who provided scholarly framing and context. She helped situate Ada's life within the broader history of U.S. Indian policy, especially the termination era and the shift towards self-determination. Because she's also listed as one of the authors, but I looked it up and it's confusing. So I just wanted to make that highlight. Yeah. I also want to highlight too that my tribe around this time, one of my tribes, the Klamath, also lost their sovereignty. And now we have restoration days like in August, because that's when our sovereignty was restored, like during that time. And there's a lot of stories throughout the country speaking to that as well. Wow. So moving on to the book itself, it has a 4.21 rating on Goodreads. Wow, okay. It is short. It's only 232 pages and was published fairly recently in 2019, like right before Ada died. And so what a great part of her legacy to be able to leave behind. I wanted to really highlight how her work pertained to poverty or spoke on the issues around poverty for Native peoples in the United States. But overall, the book is a first-hand memoir in which Ada Deer chronicles her fight to restore tribal sovereignty to the Menominee Nation and shows how grassroots activism can overturn unjust federal policies. But thinking about policy that's essentially drives poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dear shows us how U.S. termination policy stripped tribes of federal recognition, land protections, and services, directly producing poverty rather than alleviating it. Because when you remember I mentioned the logging industry? They were stripped of all those rights when they were terminated. And so then drove them into poverty, their people. And then loss of economic stability, like what I was just saying. But the community lost control over jobs, healthcare, education, and infrastructure, which led to unemployment and further instability. But thinking about structural inequality, Dear connects Native poverty to systemic racism and colonial governments, not to obviously cultural or individual shortcomings. And then thinking about like when a tribe is stripped of their sovereignty, that leads to like political exclusion, right? Because now they don't have a government that works with the federal government as a whole. But without sovereignty, the community lacked decision-making power, which demonstrates like how political disenfranchisement and poverty are very closely linked. Yeah, I also just want to highlight in the end, its national relevance, because Ada Dear's story mirrors patterns throughout the US where marginalized communities face poverty due to deliberate policy choices. And those might include like redlining, land seizure, underfunded schools, etc. And it's a direct link to those themes. So yeah, that is my second book that I wanted to share.
What a perfect choice. And yeah, even though it's focusing on one marginalized group's experience, like you said at the end, you can see that pattern play out time and time again in so many other marginalized communities around the United States. And yeah, poverty doesn't just happen out of nowhere. There's a lot of really deliberate choices and decisions that are made, policies that are passed that support and promote and further, right? These huge just wealth gaps and economic disparities, right? That have such a horrible impact. Thank you. All right. So my last one is an interesting choice because poverty and living in kind of in impoverished conditions plays a huge role in the story, but isn't necessarily the main focus. So it's The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Wariner. And I pulled this description of her directly from Goodreads simply because there's not a whole lot of information about her online. And so I felt like this summarized it pretty well. So from Goodreads, quote, Ruth Wariner lives in Portland, Oregon. And at the age of 15, Wariner left Colonia LeBaron, the polygamist Mormon colony where she grew up, and moved to California. She raised her three youngest sisters in California and Oregon. And then after earning her GED, she put herself through college and graduate school and eventually became a high school Spanish teacher. She remains close to her siblings, is happily married, and The Sound of Gravel is her first and I believe only book at this point. And you'll obviously get to hear a bit more about her as I talk about the book itself. The Sound of Gravel was published in January of 2016, so it's been a decade since it came out. It's 336 pages and also a very highly rated book on Goodreads. It's 4.31. In addition to that, like with Finding Me, this book was also nominated for Reader's Favorite Memoir and Autobiography on Goodreads back in 2016 when it came out. And as I briefly mentioned in her bio, the story is basically talking about her growing up in this polygamist Mormon colony in rural Mexico. Her dad had 42 children. And yeah, she was the 39th of the children. And her story and the way that she's situated within this colony is interesting because her dad was actually the founding prophet of the colony. And so had this kind of position of prestige and honor. But crazy twist, he was murdered by his brother. Okay.
Oh my God.
The book is wild. And so her mother obviously had all of these children. She ended up remarrying this other man within the colony who they really struggled to provide for all of these children. And so they lived literally in abject poverty. Their house had no indoor plumbing, no electricity. She's describing the conditions in which she grew up. And again, your jaw just hits the floor to know that not only adults, but children, young babies are like living in this situation and trying to get by and find joy where they can. And on top of being plagued by both poverty and abuse, we often see those things happening hand in hand, right? They were also constantly being shuttled back and forth between the United States and Mexico because her mom and her stepdad were trying to get government assistance from the United States, like collect welfare checks and also like supplemental income. Her stepfather had a series of weird jobs who just go for a couple weeks and work on a construction gig or whatever. And so it was a very chaotic, tumultuous upbringing. And it's really interesting because at one part, I was going to say in the story, but it's her life. In one part of her life, they briefly live, I believe it's with her mom's parents in California. And they just have a simple home. But to them, it's like this luxurious palace. There's carpet and there's hot water and there's doors and windows that close. It's just insane to see the way that having that security of a home that's safe and clean and warm, and also knowing where your food is coming from, the impact that it had, right, on her state of mind, her mental and emotional well-being. Because imagine as a kid, if you're growing up in abject poverty, you're constantly in survival mode. You're constantly in fight or flight mode. And that wears on you emotionally and mentally. And we don't always talk about the toll that poverty takes on people in terms in that way. And I think this book did a really good job because again, it's told from a child's perspective, right? As she's growing up, like what that does to you and your development, your outlook on the world, the ways that you interact with others, your understanding of self. It's not just being hungry. It's not just having cockroaches in your bed or whatever it might be. There's so many other ways in which poverty takes a toll on you holistically. So I liked this book for that reason in terms of connecting it to Poverty Awareness Month. As with Viola Davis's book, it is also a story of courage and resilience. You heard obviously in the bio that she ultimately was able to get her and her siblings out of that situation, go on to college and have a successful career and a healthy relationship. I think for all of the books that we recommended today, they highlight different aspects of the impact that poverty can have and also where these conditions come from and how they're created in a society and sustained. Yeah.
I have so many questions about this book.
Yeah. It's really good. Again, it was an audiobook as well. I also listened to it. It took me a while to get used to her voice because I wouldn't say she necessarily has like an audiobook voice. But it's just fascinating because there's also I think the FBI gets involved at some point because of the murders that happened and they're like hunting down her uncle. It's truly crazy. And then apparently, I'm going to get this wrong. I know I'm going to get this wrong, but the daughter of the brother that murdered, so like her cousin, I guess it would be her first cousin, also wrote a memoir about like her experiences. And so it's like I haven't read it, but I'm like, that would be interesting. Yeah. To see like her side of things. Right. And how she feels about her father and what happened and how it impacted her. But yeah, it's wild. I've always also had a bit of a fascination with just like cults and things like that. So
yes, totally.
That was another reason why I was intrigued. But yeah, that's my second book. So Kelsey, do you want to recap your two?
Gosh, we have some good ones this month. My first was Heir by Sabaa Tahir. And my second was Making a Difference, My Fight for Native Rights by Ada Deer.
And mine were two autobiographies, Finding Me by Viola Davis and The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Wariner. So absolutely check these out. If you read them, let us know. We'll be asking on Thursday on our socials for you to send us your recommendations for books that would fit well into Poverty Awareness Month and help raise awareness about what a lot of people in the United States and around the world are experiencing. So if you're not already, please be sure to follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast and TikTok and YouTube at Lit Vibes Only Podcast. So be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. If socials are not your thing, you can also email us with your recommendations directly at litvibesonlypodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And last, but certainly never least, if you have not yet rated and reviewed us, Kelsey gave you a wonderful reminder at the beginning. I'm giving you another one now. This episode is about to end. What better way to wrap things up today than to go and hit that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Leave us a comment on this episode if you got a little bit of extra time on Spotify, or you can write us a 1 or 2 sentence review on Apple Podcasts. We're so thankful that you guys joined us and hung out with us today, and we will see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.